What's up, Jose?
What's going on?
We got a guest this week. We got besides normally Natty Nate Telow, we have Nasty Nate Spear here.
This is
What's going on,
beautiful.
boys?
I'm only Natty because you took Nasty before I could get to it.
Yeah, I beat you to
Yeah,
the punch, I guess.
He also took your credit as the head sponsor of the
Oh yeah, we got we're blessed to have the owner of Gym
Yeah,
Help with us
right.
on today.
All right, let's dive right into we just had the New York Pro. Both of you
Yep.
guys competed. Both of you guys look great. Nate, you finished Spear, you finished 7th,
Yeah.
which is that is pretty damn good in that lineup. That was and that was this only your second pro show?
Yeah, Boston was the first one.
Right. And how did you do at Boston?
I got 8th, but that was behind Regan Grimes, and then this one was behind Max Charles. So I mean, it's nothing to hang your hat on,
That show was even stacked.
Yeah. And I was one spot away at this one though from the first call out, so that's like a good sign for me, especially for my second pro show. And I'm still adding muscle too, you know what I mean? Like I can still put on another 10 or 15 pounds, honestly, and I can still keep my waist tight, like, you know what I mean? So
You
it
had
gives me a
probably
glimmer of
the
hope.
smallest waist in the open the whole show.
Yeah, I really just been working on it like diligently. Like people keep asking me like, what do you do for vacuums? And I'm like, honestly, I'm just obsessed with it. I just like throughout the whole day, I'm just like always working on it. And it's not easy for, Jose, I think we're similar because like my waist is not, I had to really work on it. So like the vacuum was super hard for me. I've been working on it for years, man. Like, and I know for the vacuum for you, it's probably really hard to finally like sort of get it in, I bet.
Yeah. Well, it was easier when I was smaller. It's harder to do it the bigger you get. So
we both
that's
have really like muscular abdominals, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's harder too with that. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure. So what's next? You going to Toronto? You going to Cal? What are you doing?
So actually Vancouver in like 7 weeks. So
Okay.
partially because I had something going on. I wanted to do Orlando, but I had something going on that weekend. And then Toronto had something going on. And then Cal was just 1 week. So I don't know if I would have been able to bring an improved look. And it's the same people. And it'll be good in Van because it'll probably be a different lineup. You know what I mean? So I can get compared against some different guys, and different judges are probably up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's good to get seen. You know what I mean? Get out there. I think people that promote those shows really appreciate it too. You know what I mean? Like one of the US guys just trekking up there, you know what I mean, to hit the show.
Oh yeah. It's beautiful up there. If you've never been
Yeah,
there,
Ron Partlow's up there.
you were up there with me once, right?
No, I didn't go to Vancouver.
Oh, you didn't with me?
That was yeah, but you went with the year Hottie did it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hottie won that. He beat who'd he beat? Ian.
Yeah, Asha, right?
Yasha, yeah.
Yeah, that's
And that was a
crazy.
good show.
Yeah.
It usually is good.
And they have a good like production, good lighting usually there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it'll be fun. And I mean, Vancouver is here is like pretty much a destination, like vacation place, especially in July, right? Like, because it's gonna be like perfect temperatures because it's like right above Alaska, right?
No, it's right below Alaska.
Oh, below. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's just above Seattle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a 15-minute
Yeah,
plane
yeah.
to Seattle, or you could actually drive. So that's good. Where are you training now? Where's your everyday gym that you train out of?
Eric Langlos's gym. It's reality training in Tingsboro. So it's like right on the New Hampshire Nashville line.
Okay.
Yeah, so I live actually in New Hampshire, so those that don't know. So I'm like an hour north of you guys. So every now and then I make the trek in to visit you guys at Gym Hub, and always get a great workout and a good chuckle.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you sign the wall finally?
I'll do it next time.
I forgot to ask him
I've been
again
slacking.
yesterday.
Yeah, you guys both had
I'm good enough now. I can sign it, right? No,
Yeah. Yeah, you grew into the signage.
yeah. I mean,
So
sometimes you got to earn your stripes,
Yeah, exactly. Well, you guys both are definitely earning your stripes. That's
Yeah.
that was my first show, the New York Pro, and I got smoked. It was I was eighth in that show behind a
Yep.
crazy lineup. I told you about that. It was Kevin English, David Henry, Eduardo Correa, Fakri,
That's
Jason
insane.
Arntz. I forget who else came in front of me. Like, it was nasty. Great line.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of what you got to do. You got to go in there in the toughest of lineups to see where you match up.
Right.
And I think you both did yourselves proud. You were both in great condition, and that's
Yeah.
really all you can control. You train hard, you be as big as you can, but as long as you come in shape, I'm happy.
Right.
I think it's a win if you come in at your best. That was definitely the best, biggest, hardest version of you, as it was Nate too. So
That's definitely like even like overall, like the package that I brought, that's the best package by a mile I've ever brought. Like just my shape and that my presentation, like everything was polished, you know what I mean? Like you could see the physique is just more polished and like more mature, you know what I mean? Some more density and sort of like just goes together better, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's only getting better. You're still young enough. You're climbing.
Yeah.
Nate, what was the difference for you, from last year doing your first pro show, the Boston Pro, to this one? Like, were you nervous at the Boston Pro? Were you much more calm at this one? What was the feeling like going into the second pro show versus the first pro show?
Well, I definitely felt like, even though it's only my second one, I felt more seasoned because I just knew what to expect. I guess it's a little bit different, So the first one, I didn't realize it was like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like we were talking about it. I think like it's so nice. You can just take your time, like during your free pose, and like the expediters aren't like yelling at you. You're just sort of, you're hanging out with a small group backstage, not, walking over 100 freaking bodies laying on the hot floor at nationals, So it's like a whole different that way. So I guess going into New York, I knew that. So I guess like it helped me with my free pose and like my posing routine. I knew I could sort of take my time, right? And sort of milk some shots that maybe for Boston, I was not aware. I could have just been like going on or whatever. So this way I could sort of highlight more features that I had, you know what I mean? So like little transition stuff and slowing it down. And whereas before, I guess I was so used to feeling rushed that like I still did a pretty good job at Boston, but I probably could have like took it even more, you know what I mean? Like I did at New York, I guess.
That was so, when we were waiting in line, they said, all right, you got about 30 seconds to hit your shots. So keep it to 30 seconds. The expediters are telling us this, right? So
Right.
Normally when you're doing NPC shows, something like the Cutler, New England's, or a national show, 30 seconds means 25 seconds, and they're announcing the next name and they're rushing it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of like you. I went out there and Jose and I talked about a quick little routine that we were going to do to highlight my best shots. And I'm like,
Right.
I have to take out a couple poses. Like I may not hit them all in 30 seconds. And I want to get the most musculars in. And I was worried about that, and then I realized like, oh, nobody kicked me off. I probably could have taken my time a little bit more.
Yeah. Usually they're like, and 10 seconds. And then like 5 seconds later, like, thank you. And you're like, what?
Yeah. No one was rushing. That was, I when you said that, because I felt the same way. I was like, I got to hit these quick. I don't know if this is 30 seconds or not. And I was worried about getting through it.
And I will say, like, I guess I'm not used to like finals being as much of a production, right? So I knew being a professional, I wanted to give some entertainment value to the crowd. So like I tried to do like a nice posing routine. I tried to like get them hyped up a little bit more, you know what I mean? I guess, and as the best I could, I guess. But I guess now that I look at it as like the finals is almost like there's more entertainment value there, like, and people are there to like see that. Whereas like I even a national show or like people aren't watching the posing routines, I guess, you know what I mean? At like a national show.
I think you just go until they say thank you.
Yeah.
Until they kick you off, unless they're not paying attention and you're
Jose,
done.
did you see so at the finals for 212, they told us go out there and hit one pose, right? Go out, hit one pose for those that didn't make the top 10. And I don't know if I think it was either the guy before me or two guys before me hit like 12 poses. He was an Asian guy, so I don't think he spoke English, so he probably didn't understand.
Do the mandatories.
He went out there and they kept saying thank you. They called the next guy's name, and he was still out there hitting all the poses. The next guy had walked out towards him and he was still hitting shots.
I think it was
Well,
the
I'll tell you
older
what.
Asian guy.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't speak a word of English.
No.
I was impressed actually with the guy that placed third, the Czech guy. He didn't know one word of English, but he had like a translator with him or whatever. But like the translator wasn't even really that good, well versed. And I'm like, these guys are all the way from, imagine doing that, going all the way from like here to like the Czech or whatever Republic and not
I
knowing
did it
one,
twice.
like, yeah, that's crazy.
Most people there do speak English.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he didn't know a word. Like we were like, we got a picture together, but he didn't know like anything I was saying. I was like, oh
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
He was nasty. That guy had
Yeah,
some
yeah.
crazy shoulders and
Big
just,
ass dude with shape.
even his legs were
Glutes.
big.
Yeah.
He is so big they didn't stand out.
Yeah.
He can be good. That guy, I
Oh,
don't know
yeah.
how.
Yeah, I don't know either.
So Nate, coming out of this one, what's the plans in terms of making changes for Vancouver? What do you have in mind? Either the actual changes you might be able to make in terms of attacking a body part, or within the final couple of days, right? In terms of carving up, water manipulation, the last little bit.
Yeah, so we're gonna go with our signature back to nasty Nate look, you know what I mean, right, Jose?
Yeah, exactly.
Nah, so I mean, I really actually really loved my look. Like me and Jose were talking, like the conditioning was there, but we just tried to push fullness a little bit too much, and we lost a little bit of lines. Or not, I wouldn't even say we lost lines, but there was just a slight film because you could still see my glutes and my hamstrings, but there was a slight little water film, you know what I mean? So
Now you said
like everything
you
was
tell me you
there.
carved up what 800 grams of carbs for 3 days.
I think it was like 600 and then 800, or 800 Thursday and then 600 Friday. And then the morning of the show wasn't even that much though, because we were like pretty much all set, ready to go. But we did do something like Tuesday was like 500 or 600 grams of carbs. And then Wednesday we went down a little bit to sort of, you know what I mean, chill out. And then that's when Thursday and Friday, we sort of went, that's definitely heavier than we normally do. Like I usually fill it pretty easily. Like, so let's say for nationals, when I was like super dry and super like sort of like what we're going to try to do this time, I pretty much only filled up over like Friday. Like I still had carbs in my meals like in the beginning of the week, but it was maybe like 200, 250 something, you know what I mean? So just we're sort of maintaining that look. And then Friday you just sort of do, you know, like 500 grams of carbs or something with like rice or whatever. And that usually does the trick, and we're usually really, really dry. So this time too, like it's hard to say because like, you know, guys like Eric Wood and Beef Stew, like those guys are really big, you know what I mean? And so we were sort of trying to, you know what I mean, like not play the size game per se, but we did want to be like fuller and rounder than we usually are, because we're usually on the flatter side is usually our feedback, because I do come in like really dry and crisp, right? So, but yeah, overall, I was very happy with the look. I mean, I'm posting tons of pictures, like, so obviously I like the look, like, and the improvement, like I said, overall, I'm like very excited because like my waist has gotten better, my presentation, like everything just flows better. And like, I can sort of see like a glimmer of like where I'm going, you know, whereas before this show like really showed me, I guess, like what is possible. So it's really positive in that way. But for Vancouver, definitely we're going to try to go back to that sort of drier, crisper look where like everything is like the hamstrings are really dry, you know what I mean? And like the glutes are dry. Sort of like some of those previous looks that I've brought, right?
What was the weight difference between this show and Boston?
So it's probably about 8 pounds. But I mean, I definitely put on like, I mean, even if you You know what I mean? Let's say we'll take off 2 pounds or whatever. You know what I mean? If I was like a little bit drier. But I mean, that's even the weight, like even before we started carving up, I was 253. And then I ended up like 255, 256, like show day.
Wow.
So whereas Boston, I was like 244, 245. So even like 10 pounds. But what's really noticeable, I think, was in my legs. You know what I mean? My quads really, they were always sort of been behind, and I feel like I was really balanced physique this time. You know what I mean? So when you look at me, like everything matches. Like if you didn't know me previously, you wouldn't be like my legs are weak. I feel like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, your back
So that was
improved
good.
a ton
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Thanks to Derek Farnsworth too. Shout out to him.
Yeah. Tell us
Right.
what he did. I mean, remember you reaching out to me at some point, asking for his contact, and what
Yeah.
did that?
So in December, I flew out, saw Derek. He was kind enough to, take me in and stuff like that, and worked on me for 4 days over the course of like 6 days. So I get a little break, you know what I mean? Because it is a lot of inflammation. He's really digging in there, right? And the difference between like Derek and someone that would be local is just like he's been bodybuilding for 30 or even longer years, right? And he's been working on people for X amount of years, whatever. And not only that, he works on himself religiously. So whenever I was there, he was always sort of, digging on his chest, or he had a tool going, or he was just sort of neurotic about it. And those are like the best guys to learn from, right? Because they're just always learning themselves. So he was an amazing teacher too, which was probably the best part about it. It wasn't the body work, it was the knowledge that I acquired over a course of 4 days. You know what I mean? So when I got back, the most crucial part was, yeah, Derek did a really good job, but the thing with my back was it would like go right back to being sort of effed up like within a week, So when I got back here, I had to be really diligent and do all this body work and like, foam roll on like this piece of metal that weight Derek showed me to, and then use a softball to sort of break up my rhomboid area. And then I have this like little, so like I have all these like little tools and then bands, like I was showing Nate this morning. There's a lot of exercises that Derek showed me to help me sort of reconnect my lats too. Because sometimes for some reason over the course of time, I think a lot of guys can relate to this. Maybe it's that, I don't know what you want to call it, but you almost sort of like lose the connection a little bit. So I found that was happening. So a lot of the stuff that Derek showed me too really helped reconnect my lats. And then I showed you the rear lats, but it was just night and day, so.
Yeah, unbelievable. That's something people don't realize is you have to continue it's almost therapy.
Yeah.
In order to really, take full advantage of what Derek does with you. He'll,
Right.
teach you all the ways to continue it on your own. And clearly you did it, because
Right.
those pictures are pretty impressive.
And even Derek was like adamant about it. He's like, yeah, like he's like, all these people, I bet you like 20% of them actually go and do the homework. So I was like, I promise I'm going to do it. I flew all the way out here. So it's almost like more of an incentive to me to like, it's like, man, I just spent all this money to, do this thing. And, it's funny because as a bodybuilder, we get it, but you go to someone normal, like, why are you going out to San Diego? Oh, I'm going to pay this guy a bunch of money to go work on me in a lot of pain to fix this one freaking pose.
Yeah.
Seriously,
It was worth every nickel.
Oh yeah, very. Just seeing the stage shots of like, of like that, just a nice, beautiful lat spread was like, oh, thank God, you know what I mean? Like a relief almost,
Yeah.
So it was cool. Yeah.
So when you were at backstage, did you get a chance to see Tonio and Stu up close? And what did you think of those guys?
Dude, honestly, Tonio doesn't even look that crazy just standing there. But when he starts posing, it's like everything comes to life and it flickers and he has all this just crazy stuff going on, right? Stu is definitely a big boy. He's dense, and then honestly, Eric's pretty big, man, up top at least. He's a broad guy.
Yeah.
That kid's gonna be if his condition was a little bit better, I could see him third at that show, but his like backside was a little bit soft. But that kid can definitely be something really good. He's young too. So those two guys are going to be, I mean, obviously Stu's already sort of doing it now, but which is
Yeah.
pretty cool. You know, there's a lot of guys like, you know, that's age old discussion of, you know, people, oh, there's no good new pros, this and that, or whatever. But over the past like 5 years, I mean, Nick, Hunter, and then you got Andrew Jack coming out of the woodworks, and like all these, there's a lot of new guys. And what's cool is too, there's a lot of new guys with like really good genetic features. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like stuff that's sort of unique and
Yeah.
sort of throwback-ish, you know what I mean? Like I would even say my physique could be like a little bit throwback-ish just because like how good my abs and my midsection are, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like even like, you know, like the lower Christmas tree or whatever. I know you like that sometimes. But a lot of guys are like, oh, there's no one with like lower backs, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, no, you're right. There's not too many guys in the open that have tiny hips like you. Like that waist is pretty unique, especially for a
yeah.
big white guy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Tony, I did a podcast with Ron Harris, and I made a bold statement. I said I think Tonio, if he improves from here, he adds a little
Yes,
bit of tissue and comes in 10% sharper, as
right.
tight as possible. I could see him in the first call out at the Olympia.
Yeah, I mean, he has all like those unique features that I was saying. Like, I know a lot of people compare him to like Dexter and stuff like that, but he has like a certain detail and the quality of the skin, and like when the light just is like right, you know what I mean? Like the oil is just right. He has that like, you know what I'm saying? Like Andrew Jack has that too,
Oh
almost like
yeah,
the skin, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh shit, like your eyes are just drawn to it, right?
yeah.
What do you guys think he weighed? Because how tall is he, by the way? Is he like
I think he was only like
5'7"?
I think he was only like 220,
He's probably
which is
5'6",
insane.
5'7".
Yeah, 220 or so, 225. I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
so Stu had like 30 pounds on him.
Yeah, which is wild, huh?
I mean, and it showed on stage in terms of
Density, I
Stu took
think.
up, yeah, density. Stu took up a lot more
Yeah.
space, but
Stu has really thick lats, you know what I mean? So that
yeah,
front
yep,
double is really
yep.
powerful, and that front lat, very powerful. So like right out the gate, he's, you know what I mean, starting out really strong. Because those are shots, like I know people talked about this before, but it's like sometimes you compare poses. So like let's say Stu's a 10 out of 10, that guy is going to be more like, he's like creating more distance, you know what I mean, right off the back, because those two shots are so powerful, where he's like, not many people are going to be able to hang with those two shots right off the rip, you know what I'm saying? And his quads are pretty nasty, really hard. So yeah, I mean, I could see him, you know, going pretty far for sure. And it looks like he's getting better for Cal too. He looks like he's getting harder and bigger. I don't know what they're doing, but did you see the ones where he's like in the red trunks the other day?
yeah,
Jose?
yeah,
Those are pretty impressive. I was like, damn.
yeah. Looks dry. Didn't look like he
Yeah.
like blew up at all after the show.
Nah, he looks crazy. I know he was pretty disappointed about second, so maybe he's trying to, like, you know what I mean, just stay right on it into the next one.
Yeah.
Try
Well,
to get
that was
redemption.
nothing to be disappointed about because
No,
he was
no way.
incredible
That's
for
what
his
I
first
told him,
show.
and he was like, he's like, yeah, man, but you know, getting second. And I was like, well, I have been there a lot of times, so I sort of get that too. But it's, yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's your pro debut, so it's like, I get it. I get both sides. You know what I mean? At one side, when you're that close, you're like, shit, I could have won my pro debut at the New York Pro. You know what I mean? And then you're also like, well, I got second at the New York Pro against this dude that's pretty insane.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
know a
so
couple people that won their pro debut at New York.
that's insane.
Rolly did
Oh
in,
shit.
in
Rip.
09 or no, not 09, 2010. Evan did.
Evan
Evan did in
at like 24, right?
2009.
How
Yeah.
old was he?
Rami did
Yep.
in
Kai or
2013.
no? That's not his pro debut.
Who?
Kai didn't win his pro debut, right? It took him a while to.
No. Took
Yeah,
him.
yeah. Well, he was natty for a little bit, right?
Yeah, he
Took him all
was.
about until he took him all about a bottle of testosterone later.
Yeah. So quickly tell the people who don't know who Nate Spear is or what your story is. We talked a little bit about earlier. Where did you grow up And where'd you go to school and stuff?
So I grew up in Concord, New Hampshire, and then I was like born and raised. Well, not I was born in Concord, but I was raised in Hopkins, New Hampshire. So it's like a small little suburb off of Concord, and I would say it's a very like rich suburb type of town. You know what I mean? And my mom was like a single mother taking care of three kids with three different dads. Two of them didn't pay child support, so we were like definitely the broke family in that town for sure. And it was definitely like that vibe of like everyone's like better than us almost, you know what I mean? So it was definitely, and like my mom was always working a lot just to support us. So like I got into a lot of trouble, obviously, because she'd be working like two jobs, you know. So like even after school until like 9 o'clock at night, she'd be working. So that gave me a lot of opportunity, right? So I definitely got into some trouble younger on, and then it just sort of steamrolled, you know, like I think I just when I was younger, I didn't really know who I was. I didn't have confidence. I was very insecure, like always feeling like anxiety almost of like in crowds or around friends or peers, you know. So when I started using drugs, it made me feel better and made me feel, I guess, not those feelings. So, and it just sort of steamrolled. I guess part of it was I was just very ignorant. I didn't really know how serious it could get, how quick and how bad. So it really just escalated very quickly. So when I did go to college, I just really I barely just skated by like high school because pretty much everyone that in that town went to college. You know what I mean? So I didn't want to be that one person that was like the loser, right? So I was like, shit, I better like turn my game up a little bit. And I just pretty much barely graduated and got into a college. So, but then I got to college and it was literally just like the worst thing for me because now I'm on my own and I'm already like doing drugs, you know. So it's steamrolled into, you know, doing like a lot of cocaine at parties and stuff like that, and then selling cocaine, and then
Where'd you go
slowly
to school?
Johnson State College in Vermont.
Oh, all right.
It's in a small town, but it's like pretty close to Burlington too. So a lot of times we would drive up to Burlington, party up there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, it was definitely a party school though, like, but out in the woods, party school type thing.
Yeah.
So
Were you
yeah, and
training
then
back
just,
then?
oh no, I didn't really train really until I was like 26 or 27 when I finally sort of got my crap together. Because they pretty much, to sort of speed it up a little bit, I mean, I ended up getting into the oxys up there. And that was when it was just like, this was like, I mean, like, frick, and like 15 or 20 years ago, it's crazy. But I was like only like 19. So this is when like the OC craze was like really new. So like I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I just tried one at a party and I was like immediately like hooked, honestly. And I didn't know about like getting sick or hooked on it, whatever. So I just kept doing it because it felt amazing and I could like sort of do my day-to-day activities and feel fine, I guess. And I wouldn't be like hungover or anything, like whereas like Coke and drinking and that kind of stuff, you're sort of like you feel like crap or whatever. So it just sort of kept going. And then one day I couldn't find it. And then I got like withdrawals. And that was the first time I ever felt that. And I was like, wow, that sucks. You know what I mean? And then I just sort of kept going and just made sure I didn't get withdrawals. And then sooner or later, I guess, you know, you realize that you're now an addict, you know, and cause I was so young, you know, and I guess I didn't everything was happening so fast. And like, I was living a fast life because I was also still selling Coke to support all this and to do whatever I wanted, you know what I mean? So I was pretty much just like partying 24/7 really. But that lasted not very long because like I said, I was a 20-year-old kid and 20-year-old kids are dumb. So, right.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much ended up getting my door kicked in Burlington, Vermont. I ended up moving to Burlington because I wanted to be closer to the party, right? So, and you know, just is better up there. So, but I ended up getting my door kicked in and I ended up getting charges for like selling and all this kind of stuff. And so they're pretty much like, hey, like you can pretty much get good behavior, you go to rehab and do whatever. So I did that, but I'm an addict. So at this point, so I get clean, I do the rehab thing, and then I go right back to doing what I was doing because I ran into someone and you know what I mean? I just, whatever. And then to speed it up, I pretty much end up messing up the whole plea to like the good behavior. So then I go to prison for 2 years in Vermont.
Oh, shit.
And yeah, and so they actually ship you out of state because they privatize their prisons because the state's so small. There's some states that do that. So I was all the way in, they sent me all the way down to Oklahoma for like most of my bid. And then they sent me back when I came back, and then I got out. And then I went back to my mother's, and you know, everything was good for a little bit, but I didn't do any work on myself, you know what I mean? Like I didn't fix anything. So I end up going right back to finding, you know, somehow stumbling upon it, whatever, at work. And like I had a good thing going for me too. I had a good job. Like back then, this is like 20, I don't even know, like 2010 or something. And I'm making like 18 bucks an hour, like loading trucks. And I had a nice BMW, and I was like 24, you know what I mean? So I was like getting my stuff back together. And then, you know, I end up using Oxy again and pretty much get kicked out of my house. And I was homeless for a little bit. I was in a shelter for a little bit in Manchester, New Hampshire, like when they have like they do like a cold shelter in the winter. So one of the winters I stayed at one of these churches because I had nowhere to go. You know, and everyone was sick of me. I was just at that point of like, you're a loser. Like, you know, you're pretty much a junk box. Like that's really where I was at. And then pretty much like the third rehab, the third try, because I did the methadone, I did the Suboxone. None of that is really, in my opinion, is going to work. But so I end up getting to my third rehab. And honestly, that's when I was just so defeated. I just really wanted to kill myself because it just seemed like hopeless. Like it was never going to happen. Like this was going to be my life. Like, and like my life was literally like, wake up dope sick, go try to find money to find dope to feel better, and then do it again the next morning. Like that's horrible. You know what I mean? And you just feel like it's just the worst life ever. So so I guess I felt stuck, you know what I mean? But for some reason this last time, I think the main thing was I did the 28 days and I was really getting active this time and like the AA stuff. And whereas before I'd be like, oh, I'm like too cool for that or whatever, you know? And so then I did a transitional living program, which was probably the biggest difference maker. Was they sent me to a whole new place of Keene, New Hampshire, that I've never been to before. So I sort of settled in that area, and I was in like a, you know, half rehab. I'd go to work. They'd take us to the gym. So that's when I started going to the gym. So they took us to the YMCA that was in Keene, and we'd go to there and just mess around, whatever. And obviously we'd all lift weights and stuff. And I guess naturally I just sort of progressed very quickly. Like I was a strong bencher right off the rip. Like even in high school, I sort of knew that. So I always sort of had like the forearms a little bit, and like this, I always had the six pack too. So I sort of knew, and I had like a little bit of the cap delts going on. So I wasn't an idiot. Like I knew I sort of had something going on. And so yeah, I just sort of excelled very quickly. And then I really did really well in the AA program, and I went through the 12 steps and I was sponsoring people, and I was just really into it, and it really helped me out a lot. I mean, I know it's a little bit like whatever, but it was sort of what I needed at that point, right? So so I pretty much end up, like, to speed it up a little bit, I end up moving up to like Lebanon, New Hampshire. I got like promoted at work, and like things were going great. And then like just enough people came up to me and they're like, hey, like, have you ever done a bodybuilding show? And like people are starting to think I was on stuff too, which I wasn't for like the first couple of years, you know what I mean? So that's usually a indicator, like, okay, you know, something's going on, right?
Yeah.
So I prepped myself for the Granite State Open, and I like dieted on like tuna and air and
Yeah.
mustard and like romaine lettuce, you know, and doing like stairs at 2 a.m. in the morning, because like you got to remember, like I'm not like a normal person that's getting ready for the first prep. I'm this like addict that has all this stuff going on in their head, and like that's why I trained like a nutcase like the first few years, because I had all this stuff upstairs that I could use to like train with, you know what I mean? So it was like a gold mine. So and I think that's what really made me so good at bodybuilding too, is just a lot of this stuff from the past. And like everything is easy now, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
nothing's hard. So But yeah, so I did my first show, Granite State Open. I placed second, and like we were at the thing, an event or whatever. But Laura
Turtle up.
Turtle,
Yeah,
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 she wrote me my first diet is like, one chicken breast and like 6 ounce, sweet
yeah.
potato, like, the old plastic on the notebook.
She's great.
Um, so yeah, that
I
was
won that
awesome.
show
And
back in 2000.
damn,
Yeah.
so I competed naturally for 2 years. And then actually it's funny, the first NPC show I went to was the Vermont in 2015 when Matt Moulton won. And that was the first picture I got with you. I think I sent it to you a while back, but so that was like probably like 210 pounds maybe or something in the off season too,
Right.
And then I went back and did the Vermont the next year, and I did the whole 2016 Connecticut Cutler run
Yeah.
that I had there, and pretty much the
What
rest is
year was
sort of
your first
history.
show? What year?
2013, the Granite State Open.
All right. And how long did that period of your life last? When you were doing whatever, going crazy.
Oh, probably like 8 years.
Oh,
There was
really?
like some time in between where it was like I would get 3 months clean, but like I would never got a year. Like it would always be like 3 months was like the magic number because everything would start going good again, and then
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I can do it on the weekends, or I don't know, just stupid, but
So you're over 10 years now.
yeah, July 2nd, 2012 is my sobriety date. So
Wow, that's awesome. Good for you, buddy.
yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't really, at some point it started like not really, I guess you like count, you know what I mean? And then at some point it's just sort of, it's so like, I know people say like don't think it's like distant or whatever, but it is like so crazy, like because I mean it's only so crazy because the distance from where I'm at, like even for a normal human being, I'm a professional bodybuilder. I just placed seventh at the New York Pro, their second pro show, in open men's bodybuilding. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
pretty wild. Like, and then from even all that stuff I just said, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just as I
sometimes when
just
you
talked
go
about
through
it, I
that,
was like, damn.
yeah. I mean, I think it in a way made you stronger. Having to go through that and come out clean on the other side, it teaches you a lot about yourself. That
Yeah,
if you can get through that and you can beat that, then a contest diet ain't nothing.
right.
And you don't mind suffering.
Yeah,
That's why you're able to bring that crazy condition because
yeah,
you're able to just block it out
right,
and go through the pain, embrace the hurt.
right.
That's great. So you how many amateur shows did you do? You only did nationals like
Uh
twice, right?
no, I did probably like 16 shows.
How many
I did
nationals?
national shows. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Okay. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
second
so
a
I
couple times at North Americas too, right?
yeah, so I remember when Nick Walker did it that year, and then
Yeah.
Bundy when he got it at nationals,
Yeah.
and then freaking Carlos, dude, I ran into some freaks, that's why. But no, the
Oh,
second my first second place was at 2019, was actually, remember Cade Zook?
yeah.
That was the first time I actually placed nationally, and I was only like 230 at that show, but it was really well put together, but Cade was like fuck like 280, I mean
He's
he's
tall
taller,
too,
but
right?
still, yeah. The whole lineup
Whatever
was, I don't know
happened
if
to
you remember
him?
that. I just think he had too many injuries, and I think too many tears, and like he pretty much knew at that point, like, okay, yeah, you turned pro, but how much more, how much further can I take it, I guess,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too
And
bad. That
Nate's
happens
a
to a
great
lot.
example of, I've watched him over the years, around the time I was doing just local shows like the Cutler, he was on the national scene and just missing it. Maybe you were third or right in the mix and losing to just the freaks, right? That nobody was
Yeah.
going to beat. And what I always admired about you was some people can only take so many years of that. the close but no
Yeah.
cigar. Like you were just saying, Stu getting second place. It's a glass half full, glass half empty way of looking at it. Of, you could look at it and say, wow, like I was that close. And, these guys came in. Of course, I wasn't going to be able to beat them, but I'm right there, and if I keep coming
Right.
back. But another person would take 2 or 3 years of that also level of disappointment of being so close and training your ass off for a whole year to come back better, only to just have a freak come in and win and probably call it quits. I'm sure there's been a bunch of those guys that close but no cigar, and you break after a while of that because you're like, what's the point? I've killed myself the last few years. A lot of other areas of my life are on hold, whether it's relationships or making money or, to go all in on this. And I keep missing, but I've always looked up to you because you just kept coming back and not only coming back, but significantly better, then all the way to obviously the Boston Pro, and then Boston Pro to now is you're a really good example. One, showing that this takes time. I'm sure I know you're a coach now, Nate, and I was joking with Jose the other day of, we get people that are like, all right, so I'm going to do my first show and I'm going to qualify for nationals, and then we'll go right to nationals 2 weeks later and get the pro card, and they're serious, right?
That's why I made that post yesterday.
Yeah.
With Evan Senapani. I go, this
Yeah,
is what you're
yeah.
going to run into.
Yeah.
All right.
What are you thinking?
So obviously it's the new thing to, put nationally qualified in your Instagram bio and to get the pro card. And, people don't realize what it actually takes. And you're a great example of that, of what it does take, but also if you stick with it, where you can be, which is, right now you're right on the cusp of being a first call out guy at any pro show.
Well, it's funny because I actually have a good story because I get that same, like you said, the same question or statement, whatever. And I always go, well, think about it like this. I said, in 2016, I won 3 overalls and I won my class at Junior USA's. I went on the nationals, my first nationals, and I got last call-outs. I got my ass whooped. You know what I mean? So it doesn't necessarily, like, you could win an overall, but like, who are you beating, right? So a lot of these guys, they'll post, yeah, I did this and I did that, but it's like, and then you look at the lineup and you're like, well, who'd you beat? There's a lot of those instances, right? Like, and then you can be objectifiably and be like, okay, well, who, or maybe you lost and you got second and you're like, well, who beat me? You know what I mean? Like, maybe Stu went to some show and there was no one there, right? And Stu wins the show, or he gets second to Tonio, who's like, a multiple Olympian, that guys that's going to be probably in the top 5 sooner or later, right? So it's about perspective. And then also, I don't know if you guys saw my post. It was like, I truly mean this too, but I just think a lot more people need to think like this. But I just pretty much made a post saying, hey, I'm so happy that I placed 7th actually, because I'm 1 spot away from the first call out, my second pro show, and I can see my structure and my body and everything, that as I put on maybe 5 or 7 more pounds of muscle, that I'm going to be right with those guys. So if anything, it's just got me more excited for the future. You know what I mean? And that was the same thing for when I was starting nationals. Is I got smoked at nationals. I came back to USA's a year. I took a year off, and then I was a super. That was my first year as a super at nationals. I was like 230. You know what I mean? But I got 7th, and I was 1 spot away from the first call out. And the first call out was Ron Gordon, Henry Jackson, Brent was in that call out. Remember Daniel Nicoli? Actually, that was the year he placed at USA's. He looked really good that year.
Yeah.
That was a really good, you know what I mean, first call out. And then the guy you coached, remember 2018, the guy with the hair, I think he placed right ahead of me.
With the hair?
That was the first. Yeah, the guy from like the Washington or something, the dark skinned guy. You always coach for nationals that I'm buddies with. He used to do nationals with me all the time.
I'm out of my mind. Who are we talking
He's
about?
tall. He has the long hair. He's almost like Samoan looking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Nate,
Yeah.
you know who he's talking about. He looks Samoan.
Yep.
Dude, that kid has so much potential too.
He was unreal. He's from Atlanta.
But yeah, that year was his best year, right? The 2018 USA.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was right ahead of me. So I'm like, okay, I'm like 230. Yeah, I didn't maybe make first call up, but look at the guys that are ahead of me, and like look how much more room I have to improve compared to them. Like they're, you know what I mean? My improvement is like still down here, and they're like a little bit closer to their tops, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to look at it objectively too, you know what I mean? And both sides, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about is baby steps and taking steps and not giving up and understanding that it's a long process to get to where these guys are.
Yeah.
Even the most like we were talking about earlier, Kai Green is one of the greatest in history. And it took him many years to go from amateur to top amateur to a pro, and then
Right.
a decent pro, and then a top pro. It didn't happen overnight.
Well, don't you think there's a lot more younger guys expecting to win their pro debut these days?
Yes.
Which
Yes.
is like, everyone wants something so quick, I guess, you know what I mean? I guess, I don't know. It's the luster is not quite as much there for me though. Like, you know what I mean? Like if everything just came, like I have so many amazing memories and so many like just things to look back on because of like how long and sort of stretched out my journey has been, you know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
I did everything in 4 years, I guess it sort of wouldn't be as memorable, I guess, you know.
These are also the things that will make you a better coach as you
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
coaching people. Having gone through all these experiences yourself, you can
Right.
help to make sure the people you're helping, don't go through some of the things that you had to go through. And,
Right.
you can teach them first without them having to make the mistake. So
Right.
that's a big thing.
Definitely.
Nate, what about you? What are your thoughts on your placing at New York? We haven't been able to talk about that yet. And what are you doing next?
Yeah, so I got 12th. You know me, Jose, the way I view things is you dive in head first and then you get feedback, right? Like when I went to start Gym Hub, the idea wasn't what it is now, but I got feedback and I pivoted, and you learn and
Yeah.
so there's some level of you got to jump in, maybe even before you feel ready, because if you sit on the sidelines and try and plan it perfectly, it's never going to be perfect, right? So part of me doing this show, in no way did I think I was going to win. Did I think I would be top 3? My personal goal was to make top 10, and I fell a little short of that. I didn't get to be compared to some guys that I think I could have beat if I was compared next to them. But I got feedback, and I also got the experience and confidence of what we talked about. Like, oh, I have more than 30 seconds when I go out there. I don't have to rush that. I probably need to take time to pump up more. I went out there prejudging with like barely a pump, because I was looking around. I'm like, all right, Kareth hasn't started pumping up, and this person hasn't started pumping up. And I was like watching, and like, I'll pump up when they pump up because they're the veterans. And Kareth probably doesn't need to pump up. He's a big black dude that hits 2 poses and he's full. And
Comes
so
life,
there was
right?
a lot of little things like that I learned from, and it was nothing but a positive experience. The weird thing, I was talking to Jose about this, and see, Nate, if this is something you've had to deal with, is like the reactions from others. Obviously, I had so many amazing people, as I'm sure you did, supporting me, and this came down to the show, who were big cheerleaders and somehow thinking I'm going to win the show, because it's like in our little circle, I have the best physique they've seen. And so the reaction afterwards was like I was a fighter that got knocked out, and I think what it is like a sympathy, like, hey, man, you doing okay after that? And that, to me, that's been the worst feeling of this is not the placing, because the placing is data, is info, is stuff that I can take and take action on and be better. But the reactions afterwards of like sympathy,
that's rough.
I hate that feeling more than anything, but yeah, so with that being said, we're going on to Toronto, which is now under a week and a half away. I'm excited for that. I'll have way more confidence on stage. I'll make sure my presentation is better now that I got, the nerves and that first experience out of the way. Jose and I were talking, certainly we came in trying to bring really good condition, and which I think we did. This time we'll try and be a little fuller, with being 5'8", and
Right.
pushing condition. Made me one of the smaller guys in terms of just muscle mass and density, probably up there. And so I think we can probably push that, as well as just me getting a proper pump up backstage,
Yeah, a little bit more
spacing.
preparation,
I have
a little
just
bit more lower stress. Like you're going to be more comfortable. You just got off stage 2 weeks ago. Like your posing, you'll probably feel so much better about your posing, because I don't know about you, but like for me, there's a show close that I'm doing again. Now I have those pictures too to look at, the video, and so it's easy to make the correction. So sometimes it's hard at your house, or you're posing wherever you're posing, to sort of emulate what you're actually gonna look like on stage. Because I don't know about you, but I look much different on stage sometimes, like in a better way. But sometimes you do your poses like in the same place every time, but then you get on stage and it might not quite translate as well as it you maybe thought.
Yep. So yeah, I have no doubt I'll be better in Toronto, mentally, physically, fuller from pumping up, from carbs, just better prepared. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm assuming there'll be some of the same guys. I have seen some Canadian guys who are jumping in, so there'll be some new people there. Different judges, different city. Part of it
that'll be good
too. Like I'm, certainly I'm super competitive. Anything that I start to do, I have to be the best at it. But there's also a part, at 42, knowing I'm probably not going to have 10, 15 years of this. That's like having these experiences and making memories. And I'm so glad Jose gets to go out there, and we get, 3-4 days out there to prepare for a show together and go out afterwards and make the most of my time in this sport. Well, I like you, it's turning pro a couple years ago and getting to step on the New York Pro stage. It's still kind of a dream. If someone had told me 3 years ago, this is where my life would be, of owning a gym and doing pro shows, it wouldn't have seemed possible. So there's a gratefulness, for me there, but I'm still super competitive. So I'm definitely not stroll in and do whatever. It's I'm going to make the most of it and get back to work. And, not only did I get feedback from Tyler, but, more importantly, we have feedback from Jose of, how I look in the lineup, and I know what I need to bring up to be more competitive next year.
Yeah. No, I mean, I definitely think too, like with your physique, in a different set of eyes, like you could definitely move up, you know what I mean, a few, probably even like maybe like 4 or 5 places. It depends really, but because like your physique is very aesthetic, very conditioned, flows very well. So when the right judges who might maybe, go that way over, say, maybe more of like a shorter, stumpier guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah, what I tried to explain to him was, when a lineup comes out, and say out of 18 guys, 13 of them are 5'5", 210.
Yeah.
Short, stocky, huge legs.
Right.
And then Nate comes out, he's 5'8". He might as well be 6'2". He looked, him and Costella, and there was like one other guy who was really tall.
Even Lowbliner's tall.
Yeah, Lowbliner is 5'7" and change.
Yep.
And they just look tall. Shit, Flex Lewis looked tall in the lineup, and he's only 5'6". So it's just, I think when the judge's eye gets trained to these big guys, even if they're not perfectly conditioned, it kind of makes Nate the odd man out. And I just think that made it easier for him to get overlooked. So it is a good idea.
No, actually, definitely.
to come in and bring Nate a bit bigger, fuller.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing crazy, but
Yeah.
as he
Mhm.
noted on Wednesday when we were training prior to the show, he was crazy looking. And
Yeah.
then just by dropping another 4 or 5 pounds, he looked great to me. He had a lot of detail, a
Yeah.
lot of separation. He
Right.
just wasn't as blasting full as he did a few days prior. So that's more the
Yeah.
look we're going to try to go for. And I think
Yep.
it'll make you stand out more. For
And
sure.
the nice thing with Toronto is the weigh-ins are a couple days before. New York
Oh,
Pro
yeah.
was the very
Yeah.
night before. We weighed in at like 8 p.m. and then I had to try to cram in 2 meals to go to bed to be up at 6 a.m. for a prejudging that started at
Right.
8 a.m. It was like
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
little time.
It's
So
tough, yeah.
the scale at the New York Pro was very generous for us. I had weighed myself on my scale and I was probably 211, but that scale said 209. But morning of the show on my scale, I was 207.
Oh, no shit.
And so, when we were talking about that Wednesday when I was just blasting full, and I was even surprised, I was like, this is crazy. I was probably 211 that morning. And by the time of the workout, 213 or something like that, 213,
Okay. Yeah.
214. And
So you got that, yeah.
so the nice thing is weighing in Friday afternoon and competing Sunday.
You'll search for that
some
211,
time to-
213
Yeah.
after you weigh in. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be
Yeah, definitely.
interesting to see and compare the two looks.
Right.
Yep, exactly.
So
I think too, like at this,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think too, at this level, like our physiques are so like polished now that we can sort of do this kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Whereas like, I think when you're younger, you really can't like, you know what I mean? Like play with stuff as much because your physique just isn't like matured, you know what I mean?
And your body so much better now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know or what to expect a bit more from your
Right.
body.
Man, one of the things that surprised, I mean, it shouldn't surprise me, but it did at New York Pro was there were no bums on stage. When I say it, like,
Yeah.
even at national level, as you were saying, there's people that get nationally qualified, they're
Right.
second place in a small town show where nobody
2
showed
out
up.
of 2.
Yeah. And then they go down to nationals and there's always the photos that go viral after,
Oh yeah.
of somebody that's just obese up there, just tons of people that you're like, how did this person get there? Right. So it's just sort of what you get used to going to a local show, even
Yeah.
going to a national show. There was
Right.
none of that. There wasn't.
Yeah.
I always assume, sometimes I've been to New York Pro years in the past, and there would always be guys that come out of the woodwork that, dust off the pro card and hadn't competed in 7 or 8 years. And
Jocelyn
few of them-
Pelletier.
yeah, a few of these people you look at and you're just like, they're a pro? There was none of
Yeah.
that here.
Right.
All the way
Right.
to the last place guys. These were guys that could go into a pro qualifying show and win.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say like even at in the open guys, like even like 11 or 12, like everyone was like pretty peeled because like that guy Mike from Australia was like pretty shredded and he was 10th. And then that guy Slavo, I think, was like 11th and he was shredded too. Then Brent was 9th. I mean, he's obviously peeled. And then Robin Stern was pretty shredded too, and he was right behind me. So, those guys are really in good shape. I think a lot of people brought it too because they knew it was like sort of wide open. So they're sort of like, oh, here's my opportunity.
They didn't have a huge names in it. That was a stacked lineup of people in shape, big guys.
Right.
It was a really good show. People, I hear a lot of people say that, oh, the New York Pro didn't have anyone in it. I'm like, you weren't there. I'm like, that was a great show. You can't have Kai Green's not competing anymore. Phil Heath's gone. Jake Cutler's gone. This is the new crew of guys that are going to be the next big thing.
Well, you gotta think of it too, like logistically too, because like so think of it like, okay, like even though Carlos wasn't doing Stu and Eric Wood, and then even like the guy Walter Debs, those 3 guys are national overall champions. Usually anyone that wins a national overall champion usually goes on to do pretty good things for the most part, you know what I mean? Or can, as long as they don't mess it up, or, you know, something doesn't happen where they stop bodybuilding or whatever. But most of the guys that win a national overall champion usually, you know, go on to do great things, in my opinion.
How did
So
that
those
guy
guys are always
Debs
just getting started.
place?
He was like 12th, I think. He just wasn't in shape. I mean, he has a lot of, and he's a little bit smaller. Like, I think he's still like only like 235, because he turned pro at this last nationals as a heavy, you know.
Right.
So, and that's just in December, you know. So I don't really know
He's pretty
what the
tall
rush
too,
was.
right?
Yeah, I mean, he's like 5'10", I think 5'9".
Right around your height.
He has, yeah, I mean, he has a lot of potential if he grows. Like, he has all like the bells and whistles. He's just got to get bigger, you know, and come in shape too.
Right.
So he's never really been like, even for nationals, I just think it was like a weaker nationals. He was never been like shredded. Or like, he still is like a little bit off, you know, like all the time, like another 5 pounds or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But he has like all those like sort of black guy qualities, right?
Yeah, he does. I saw him win a show in Alabama. I was out there
Oh
for
yeah,
and I went
yeah,
to the
he's from that area.
and he won clearly. I mean, and he was probably 6 weeks out, and
Yeah.
he eventually went on to nationals. We saw him. Remember, we saw him in the
Posing room at the gym. Yep.
Yeah, and he looked really good, but he
Yeah.
again wasn't shredded.
Yeah.
I forget where he placed that year. Where did he place? Top
2 years
3 or
ago.
something. Yeah, he was top 5.
Yeah.
And then this year, obviously, he won.
Right.
But
Yeah, he has the potential to be really good. It's just I don't know. I think he maybe different guidance or something, you know.
yeah, I know the guy that coaches him or was coaching him, and he's not
Yeah.
a big
He's like more like a small town sort of coach, right?
yeah,
Or something. Yeah.
yeah. So I really don't know
Yeah, yeah.
what that's looking like. But anyway, tell us where people can reach you.
I mean, I'm just mainly on Instagram. It's just at Nate Spear. I do have a YouTube channel too, Nasty Nate Spear. And yeah, that's pretty much the
You have an
main
email?
ones.
You have anything?
Yeah. Yeah. So
You
it's
get a
just
cell phone
Nathan
number? You
Spear.
want to give that out to all the bears out there?
No. Yeah.
Nate's got a huge bear following, so
Thanks to
I want to give
Jose.
your number out.
Right.
Good.
Yeah, my email is just nathanspear25@live.com. I am taking on new clients, so if anyone wants to sort of reach out and ask me any questions, they can do that too.
That's great. All right. Well, we'll have you on again after the
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Yeah, Van Pro. That'll be
Yeah.
fun though. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'd love to get some updates. Obviously, we'll see you in the gym.
Oh yeah. You know, I'll send you some booty shots.
Yeah, yeah. I always send them to Nate.
And then I put them up on the bear sites.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, great talking
All
to
right,
you. Thanks
boys.
for sharing your story
Yeah, you
with
too.
us. And
Of course, yeah,
we'll
man.
talk
It was a
soon.
pleasure. All right,
All right.
boys. We'll see you soon.
All right.
See you,
Take care,
bud.
guys. Bye.